What if you want something in between? You want EC2 style servers, but you don't want to manage all the infrastructure yourself. Now, that is Elastic Beanstalk. It is right here in the same compute section, and you can find it right here. You upload your code, and Beanstalk handles the infrastructure for you. It provisions servers, sets up load balancing, configures autoscaling all automatically. It's great for quick deployments when you just want to get your application running without worrying about the infrastructure. It supports popular platforms like Node.js, Python, Java, .NET. Under the hood, it's still using EC2, but it manages everything for you. For simpler use cases, there is Lightsail, which is right here. Think of it as EC2 made simple. Lightsail gives you virtual servers with predictable pricing. Everything is pre-configured for common use cases. Simple websites, blogs, development environments, small applications. If you are new to cloud and EC2 feels overwhelming, Lightsail is a great place to start. The pricing is really simple too. You pick a plan, you know exactly what you will pay. For batch computing workloads, there's AWS Batch, which is right here. This is for jobs that can run in batch, meaning you don't need real-time results. You can queue them up and let them process. Processing large data sets, financial modeling, drug discovery simulations, video rendering, these are batch workloads. Batch automatically provisions the right amount of compute resources and runs your jobs efficiently. And finally, for a special case, what if you need AWS, but you need it on your own premises? Maybe for data residency requirements or really low latency needs or regulatory compliance. That's AWS Outpost, which is over here. AWS literally ships you a rack of servers running AWS services, and you put it in your own data center. It's the same AWS APIs, same tools, same services, but running in your building. Pretty cool, isn't it? Okay, so our story continues. Your dev team now comes back and says, actually, our application is containerized. We use Docker. Now we need container services. If you are not familiar with containers, here's the quick version. Containers are a way to package your application with all its dependencies so it runs the same everywhere. No more, it works on my machine problems. And you can find the container services right over here in the containers section. Before you can run containers, you need somewhere to store them. That's ECR, Elastic Container Registry. Think of ECR like GitHub, but for Docker images instead of code. You build your container image and then push it to ECR. Then your container services can pull it from there. Let's get into the dashboard and then see what it looks like. On the top left, let's click on those options, and you can see different options that we have within this ECR section. And we go into the repositories. Just like code repos in GitHub, we create repositories for Docker images for each individual application. ECR also scans your images for security vulnerabilities, which is really important. And it integrates seamlessly with the container services we are about to talk about. Now, for actually running containers, you have two options. Let's get into those right here. Going back to the containers section, and then you see them over here, ECS and EKS, Elastic Container Service and Elastic Kubernetes Service. ECS is AWS Native Container Orchestration Service. ECS manages running containers at scale. You define task definitions, then describe your container specifications like what image to use, how much CPU and memory, what ports to expose. You create services that run these tasks continuously. and you manage clusters, which are groups of containers. Now, ECS has two launch types. EC2 launch type, you manage EC2 instances that run your containers. Fargate launch type, serverless containers where AWS manages the infrastructure. Most new projects, they go with Fargate. It is simpler. You don't have to worry about the underlying servers at all. You just define your containers and run them. Second option is EKS. Let's go back to the menu. In the containers section, let's click on EKS and get into its dashboard. This is managed Kubernetes on AWS. Now, what's the difference? ECS is AWS native. It's built by AWS for AWS. EKS is Kubernetes. It is an open source platform that works across any cloud. Here's how to think about it. ECS has a lower learning curve. If you are already on AWS, it's easier to pick up. EKS has a higher learning curve, but Kubernetes is the industry standard. ECS only works on AWS. EKS gives you portability. You can move your workloads to any other cloud if needed. And Kubernetes ecosystem is huge, tons of tools and integrations. So when do you use EKS? If your team already knows Kubernetes, if you need the ability to run your workloads on multiple clouds, if you want to use the broader Kubernetes ecosystem of tools, otherwise, ECS is probably simpler. And for enterprise environments, there's ROSA. On top, going back into the menu, into the container section, and this is what I was talking about. ROSA, Red Hat OpenShift service on AWS. OpenShift is an enterprise Kubernetes distribution with additional features and support from Red Hat. If your organization is already using OpenShift or you need enterprise level support, this is the way to go. Okay, let's recap where we are. Access is done, network is done, now compute is handled. That's a wrap on part 3, compute and containers. We covered a lot of ground here. EC2 for traditional servers, Lambda for serverless, Elastic Beanstalk for managed deployments, Lightsail for simple applications, and containers with ECS and EKS. You now know how to choose the right compute option for different workloads. So applications are running, but applications need data, right? They need to store information, retrieve it, process it. Where does all of that data go? That brings us to the databases and storage, which we will cover in part 4. In part 4, we are diving into databases and storage. RDS, Aurora, DynamoDB for databases, and S3 EFS for storage. This is where your data lives. A quick favor, if this series is helping you understand AWS, please leave a comment below. Tell me what's clicking for you or what questions you still have. I read every single comment. Subscribe, hit the bell, and follow me on LinkedIn. I post additional content there that supplements these videos. See you in part 4.